truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you.
All right, sir, if you could please state your full name for the record and then tell me what you want the court to know.
I'm David King Benefield, and I'm just wanting to provide a victim impact statement.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I want to thank you for your excellent and just governance as you presided over this trial. Throughout this entire tragedy, I witnessed the steady progress of the due process of law that is meant to be at the heart of our country's justice system. To you, to Manatee County, to the entire Sheriff's Department, and to the state's prosecution team, I offer my deepest and most heartfelt appreciation. It is impossible to convey the depth of loss and grief that I feel daily at the death of my brother, Doug Benefield. On Monday morning, September 28th, 2020, Eva Benfield, my 19-year-old niece, called. She worried that she had not heard from her dad. He was not answering calls, which was very out of character for him. And soon after, I received a phone call that my brother was dead. On a call that included my cousin, Tommy Benefield, and Doug's family law attorney, Stephanie Murphy, we added Eva to the call. Eva immediately asked what was up with her dad. I was in a state of disbelief and shock. I couldn't get the words out of my mouth. Before I could muster up the words to answer her, Eva exclaimed, "She killed him, didn't she?" The next couple of days are a blur as we spent time processing Doug's life, his death, and how to respond. Tommy and I picked up the U-Haul with Doug's belongings from Alicia's house, consolidated his few remaining belongings at his apartment in Bradenton, found where Sully had been boarded up for their planned move, then headed to South Carolina to meet up with Eva and to meet her needs. There were decisions to be made, belongings to consolidate, bills to be paid, and now the unthinkable decisions about investigations, communication with family and friends, autopsies, and the unfathomable what to do with Doug's body. Doug's body was still in Florida following an expedient autopsy. I just had to see him before he was cremated. I struggled to believe it, and I needed to see him. Up until that point, I had not cried. I was numb. Tommy and I went into the office of the crematorium while they brought Doug's body out. As I looked at him through a stained glass window, I began to weep, and I could not stop. As we got into the car, my weeping turned into loud wails. Tommy sat with me in the car while I wept and wailed uncontrollably. I have never experienced anything like that kind of grief and emotional pain. As I sat there, I had one of the most profound moments of my life. I trusted Jesus Christ as my Savior in 1985. I was living with my brother, Doug, while we both attended Texas A&M University. We had heard that our Uncle Doug, a test pilot and a hero to all of us, had been killed in a B-1 bomber crash. My brother Doug was named after him. Following Uncle Doug's death, my brother played an instrumental role in leading me to Christ. He witnessed the immediate change in my life. I dropped out of my fraternity. I spent hours reading the Bible and learning to pray. Jesus captivated my heart, and the old destructive habits just fell away. Depression left and joy came in. Where I had felt so lost, I finally had a direction for my life. Doug and I shared our faith journeys from that time in college until his death. As I sat in the car at the crematorium, wailing and gasping for air, I did what I had learned to do all those years ago with Doug. I prayed. My prayers were my thoughts screamed to God as loud as I could think in the midst of my uncontrollable crying. I felt the strong and clear answers of the Lord with each prayer I prayed. I asked God, why do I hurt so bad? God responded, because you loved him so much. Why did I love him so much? God's response was a series of images and memories that came flooding back in rapid succession. I remembered him letting go of the sissy bar on my first bike ride without training wheels and laughing as he shouted, "You can do it, just keep pedaling." I remembered his encouragement at my first high school wrestling match. He was a very successful athlete and was always a state contender in wrestling. I was hyperventilating at my first match, and he was there to encourage me and help me overcome my fears. I remembered him taking me to a New Year's Eve jazz concert in Austin, Texas, during my first year in college. He knew I didn't have the money, and he paid for everything. I remembered even the little things that he made so special on that trip, like my first bagel covered with cream cheese and jelly when I didn't even know what a bagel was. To this day, every time I eat a bagel and cover it with cream cheese and jelly, I think of him. I remember his designer shirts that he let me wear, his coaching comments after my first fraternity meeting as president, the bedroom he built for me in a closet in our condo at Texas A&M, him gently but firmly correcting me after breaking his prized car when I took it out for a midnight joyride. And I remember my first cup of coffee in college that he made for me, and on and on. While these images were flashing through my mind, I heard the Lord impress me with this thought: you shared so many of your firsts with him. And the conversations with the Lord went on for quite some time. Why do we grieve with such pain? It is because of the glorious privilege God gives us to love deeply. I lost my dad to cancer at 12 years old, and my mom several years prior to Doug's death. But nothing hit me like this. God blessed me with two great brothers, and Doug, 2 years older than me, was such a gift to me. He was truly a hero in my life. Every day, I feel a kick in the gut from the loss of my brother Doug. I have spent hundreds of hours going through his well-kept records, literally tens of thousands of pictures of Ashley and Emerson, emails and texts, as I have ordered his affairs and tried to find anything that would explain what happened or that corroborated Ashley's version of the events. Rather, what I have found in his journals, his extensive emails, and meticulous records was a man with his heart set on loving his family well at all costs. I grieved Doug's loss so much because I loved him so much. He was strong, but he never used his strength to hurt people. He used it to serve and to love and help people. Doug made life so much richer. He had so many unique facets. He was an amazing artist. He was a defender of the weak, a visionary, a strength that would comfort you, not concern you, a laugh that made everything seem okay, and a way of including you that made you feel deeply loved and appreciated. He generously shared his discoveries of the beauty of life. When I was with him, everything seemed so much more exciting and hopeful. His friendship humbled me. His giftedness amazed me. His kindness comforted me. His strength strengthened me. And his passion for life inspired me. Doug was patient, almost to a fault. He hoped and he trusted deeply in the Lord with an unshakable optimism. He graciously endured so much suffering on behalf of the others, as was witnessed in his astounding patience with Ashley. He genuinely believed the best about others. This can come across as being naive or gullible, and in our weakness, that is certainly a danger. This can also make you an easy target for people, but it is truly a great way to live. I will never forget talking to Doug on the phone the first time I heard about his relationship with Ashley and the hope he had for their future. He eventually told me of his hopes for their marriage, their daughter, and all the endeavors they dreamed of in their future. I could not have imagined a more horrific ending to their story. I knew my brother intimately. Doug was absolutely not the monster Ashley alleged him to be. He was the complete opposite of what the defense presented. The primary evidence against Doug was his sworn testimony in family court, where he admitted to actions he deeply regretted that occurred on a single day 3.5 years before Ashley killed him. The defense presented a slander campaign based upon gross exaggerations of Doug's own testimony and unverified allegations from Ashley. Doug patiently endured Ashley's verbal, emotional, and legal abuse for over 3 years and was still willing to reconcile with her, even serving her up until the time of his death. The month before Doug was killed, I spent 4 days with him in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. He expressed to me his desire to help bring healing to Ashley and her mother from the trauma that they had experienced in the past. Doug realized he might not be able to salvage the marriage. He was resigned to being a single father and working with Ashley to care for Emerson. He was not angry or bitter, but filled with mercy and resolve to make the best of the situation. That was the brother I knew. His lover and his love and compassion for his family was unshakable. Ashley, I want you to know that I forgive you. You have caused me the greatest loss that I have ever experienced, one that almost daily causes me to completely stop what I am doing and weep from the overwhelming loss I feel. Doug touched every part of my life, and I can't process this senseless tragedy. But as Christ has forgiven me for my wrongs, I also forgive you. I do not hate you. I grieve for what your actions have and will cost you. It is again the exact opposite of what Doug sought for you and for Emerson when I think of you. I pray for your healing, the healing of your family, and for God's grace over Emerson as she grows. This is the very same thing that Doug told me was his desire for you 7 weeks before his death. Little did you know that the man that you sought so aggressively to get out of your life was a gift to you who had counted the cost to love you no matter what the cost, even his life. I found out after his death that there were many people who strongly encouraged him to leave you, even some who expressed concern for his life. But he would not give up on you. Ashley, Doug's love was but a fraction of the love that God has for you. And I pray that you will experience God's forgiveness and mercy that only comes by knowing Jesus Christ and his cross and truly believing in him.
All right, thank you. State.
Next, we have Wes Benfield. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, sir, if you could please give me your name and then tell me what you want the court to know.
Yes, sir. My name is John Wesley Benefield Jr., Doug Benefield's older brother.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor, for allowing the Benefield family to be heard. I ask the court to give Ashley Benefield the longest possible sentence for the egregious cold-blooded murder of her brother Douglas Glass Benefield. Doug has always been a man of faith, loved his family, loved this country, and his friends. The Benefield family has had a very long history for many generations of protecting this country, protecting others, helping others. Doug was a naval aviator after graduating from Texas A&M. Went on to do great things in life. Doug has a beautiful, smart daughter, Eva Benfield, who does not have a father anymore. Unfortunately, Eva's mom, Renee, passed away a number of years ago due to health issues. We all miss Renee, a wonderful wife, mother, and person. Ashley Benefield had an opportunity to make a great marriage, a partnership with Doug, be a great stepmom to Eva. We all know now what Ashley has done by murdering Doug in cold blood. Ashley doesn't care. She didn't care about Doug. She did not care about Eva. Ashley treated Eva horribly, while Doug and Ashley were under the same roof in the beginning of their marriage. When Ashley had Emerson, their daughter, Ashley did not even tell Doug that she was born. As we found out in the jury trial, Ashley did not even recognize Doug as the father on the birth certificate. That's my understanding.
Judge, excuse me, I apologize for interrupting. I don't think attacking the defendant is part of a victim impact statement, so I argue this, ask the witness to move on to a different part of the statement.
I'll sustain.
Ashley treated Eva horribly while Doug and Ashley were under the same roof in the beginning of their marriage. Here?
Yeah.
The Benefield family has always been a very close family. We always had a great time together when we were all able to get together. We would catch up, have great meals together. We have a great God-loving family. Now we do not have Doug anymore. Eva does not have a dad anymore, or a loving mother, Renee. I'm retired law enforcement, retired deputy, Brazoria County Consul's Office, Texas, the south side of Houston. As the court, the sheriff's office, and the state attorney's office have seen and dealt with animals that murder, steal, rape, home invasions, pedophiles, so have I. When you look at these egregious offenders, once they get out of incarceration, many of them go back to the streets and continue to commit the same type of aggravated offenses until they're caught again. During the jury trial, Ashley would occasionally look at me and my family with this arrogant smirk,
Judge,
showing that she...
Same objection. I apologize for the interruption.
Sustained.
In conclusion, I respectfully ask for the full sentence of incarceration due to the cold-blooded murder of Doug Benefield. I'll give you one last example of how we know Ashley doesn't care about Doug and the Benefield family.
Again, objection. Same
Sustained.
basis.
Okay. Your Honor, thank you again for allowing us to be heard.
Thank you, sir. State.
Tommy Benefield,
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, sir, if you could give me your full name and then tell me what you want the court to know.
Yes, sir. Tommy Douglas Benefield, Jr. I had one younger brother, but my relationship with Douglas Glass Benefield was even closer than that. Douglas was named after my father, a very famous Naval Air Force aviator, test pilot, combat veteran. And Doug followed in the footsteps of my father, much the way many of our Benefield family did. We heard from the expert who spent 90 minutes with Doug, but I spent 59 years with Doug. We knew him much better than any 90-minute expert. Before Ashley was born, Doug was a graduate of Texas A&M in biology with scores high enough to get into medical school. Because Doug was raised in a very middle-class family, did not have the money or scholarships like today to go to medical school, he chose to go into the Navy program that I helped sponsor him into, which led to him spending 3 combat tours off of aircraft carriers in the Western Pacific and in the Middle East. Doug was both a naval flight officer, meaning that he was a warfare officer, aviation warfare officer, and he also flew the airplane, which was unusual at that time, but something that he could do, like many other things. In 1992, he went through 1-year training as an intelligence officer for the U.S. Navy and eventually for the Defense Intelligence Agency. During all those trials and tests in the Navy and in the intelligence plans and purposes, Doug was always tested to the highest levels to make sure that he could withstand the stress of combat, the stress of life, and separate those two things well. After becoming an intelligence officer, his other job, his public job, was as a mine warfare officer and instructor at the Navy's Mine Warfare School in Charleston, South Carolina. He did that for 3 years. After that, he went 3 years for the Defense Intelligence Agency as an analyst and a technical operations expert. In 1999, he left active service but stayed in the reserves and continued his service to this country for almost 20 years. In 2000, he married Renee, his longtime amazing wife. In 2001, their daughter Eva was born, who's here today, and you'll hear from after me. 2015, after a long run, Renee passed away, despite what the defense has alleged, of a heart attack under natural conditions. Doug became a single parent, like I was many times in my life, unfortunately, and in 2016, he met Ashley. I met Ashley April of 2017. I remember the first encounter. I remember being at the home at 701 Preservation Place. I remember the calm and comfort, the love between them at the time. But a few months later, Ashley separated from Doug under one purpose, saying that she was having trouble with her pregnancy, but with ulterior means. And that is the history that we know through this process. What we don't, most people know about Doug Benefield is when he was 12 years old in 1971. Like Doug, who could figure out things that no one else could for this country, for the special operations warfare operators, for the emergency responders, Doug, Wes, and David's father figured out how to use microwave and laser systems to communicate and track space objects before anyone understood what that was capable of. That was 1971. Like Doug, was passed on to him one of Doug's current technologies that no one in the world could figure out but Doug. It's called transpositional modulation. It's a radio frequency waveform technology that offers dramatic bandwidth increases and novel security functions for existing wired and wireless networks. There's a multi-billion-dollar corporation founded on the fact that Doug Benefield could figure out how to make two signals go on the same frequencies at the same time. That accomplishes what no one thought possible, the simultaneous transmission of two or more distinct data paths on a single carrier signal. Quantum physics in use on 5G networks all around this country today. He also founded the patents that would lead to secure data via quantum physics that encrypts swiftly and securely all data that's unhackable even in today's world. Right now, here's just some of the patents that are in use under Doug's name. Lighting control devices and methods. Task ambient heating and air conditioning systems for distributed space conditioning. Methods and systems for air quality analysis, diagnostics, and environmental controls. Heating and air conditioning fire suppression systems. And even the most craziest one of all is called free space optical transmission system for vehicle networking. The reason that our cars, more importantly our special operators all around the world in the Western world, can data transfer from sole operators behind enemy lines to their command and control is because Doug Benefield figured it out. John 10:10 says to us, the thief comes only to steal and destroy, as opposed to Christ, who's come that they may have life and live it to the full. I believe that the people who have supported Ashley have been deceived. They've had stolen from them their time and their effort. That
Judge, I'm going to object on the same basis. It's not a proper victim impact statement.
Sustained.
there's been no question in my mind or in this court under the Stand Your Ground hearing, which was found that Ashley did not have a self-defense enough to reach that threshold, that she stole from Doug. There's no question that she killed Doug.
Judge, same objection. I'd ask the state to direct the witness to give appropriate victim impact.
Judge, I would disagree. It is allowed that the victim's family can make statements about the defendant. I understand if the defense is asking that they not, make broad
Characterizations and opinions about the crime, the defendant, and the appropriate sentence shall not be permitted as part of the victim impact evidence.
I'll take care of that, Your Honor. I'll
Yes.
make sure.
Thank you.
And you're reading that from?
921.141 sub 8. How I started this sentencing hearing was, this is not a capital sentencing. However, when I do sentencings, I think those are good guidelines to use in formulating the nature and extent of a victim impact statement.
No problem,
Sir.
sir. I'll wrap it up and I'll be careful.
Sir, tell me everything you want to know. The victim impact evidence is designed to demonstrate the victim's uniqueness as an individual human being and the resultant loss to the community's members by the victim's death.
Yes, sir. I believe I've done that so far, and I'll finish it with that, sir. What saddens me personally is the loss of Doug to our family, to Eva in particular, who has no parents, as she said and demonstrated. The worst part of it is that there's a 6-year-old that will grow up not knowing the man that we've known all of our lives. The loss to this country and to the Western world of the brain, the smarts, the ability to problem solve in a way no one thought possible, that all the engineers said couldn't happen, was something unique to Doug Benefield that was stolen from us, our family, his daughters, and the world. And I'm sorry that we're here, but that's the theft that's happened. That's the loss to this country that's so much greater than anything could possibly be replaced. I personally, our family asks for a minimum of 25 years and the maximum possible of 30 years, Your Honor, due to the grievous loss of killing Doug Benefield by Ashley Benefield. Thank you,
sir.
Your Honor.
And I
All right,
believe
Steve?
lastly, we have Eva Benfield.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, yes, ma'am, if you'd please introduce yourself to the court and tell me what you want me to know.
I'm Eva Benefield, Doug's daughter. When my dad moved from Charleston to Florida, I was a little over 18 years old and preparing to go to college. He was on the road a lot, and I would occasionally see him when he passed through South Carolina on his way up north. Although I did not get to see him as much as I liked, he was always a text or a phone call away. After my mom died, my dad knew it was important for him to answer the phone as soon as he could. He was out of town when she passed, and I had been trying to call and text her after school for what felt like hours of waiting in the carpool pickup line. After finding her later that evening, any time my dad didn't answer, it sent me into a spiral. My brain automatically went to the worst possible outcome, thinking something terrible happened. My dad's colleagues can attest to the fact that even if he was in the most important meeting of his life, when I called, he would step out immediately and let me know that he was in a meeting and he would call me back as soon as possible. My dad usually woke up in the very early hours of the day. The first thing he sent me was always a Bible verse followed by, "Good morning, pumpkin." This was his way of letting me know that when he was awake and he was available for me to call him when I woke up and tell him about the day I had ahead of me. The morning of September 28th, I woke up to no messages from my dad. I wasn't alarmed quite yet. Sometimes he rushed to the gym or had to immediately get to his computer for work. As the morning droned on, I anxiously awaited a phone call or a text message from him. Around lunchtime, I began Googling about traffic accidents in Sarasota, Florida. My friends told me, I told my friends I was worried, and they let me know I had nothing to worry about, that my anxiety-ridden brain was just flocking to the worst possible outcome. 9:24 a.m. Good morning. 10:42. Hello. 10:43. You're kind of scaring me. 11:20. You should definitely text me so I know you're okay. 11:48. I'm about to text Ashley. 11:49. Just kidding, I don't have her number. 12:03. This is freaking me out. 12:55. Please, please, please answer. 12:56. Great, now my texts aren't going through. 12:57. I hate this so much. It was about an hour later that I received a phone call from my uncles that my dad had been shot the night before. Is he okay? I asked. My uncle responded with a hesitant no. My next question before hanging up the phone was, she did it, didn't she? Ashley, since the day you shot my father, I have only had one question to ask you. Why? Why did you end my dad's life knowing he was my only living parent and the only person I could confide in and count on for everything I needed as I turned into a young adult? Why did you willingly take away your daughter's father, knowing the consequences of your actions would leave her without either parent to help her navigate through her own life? You somehow managed to orphan not one, but 2 young girls. Unlike Emerson, I am fortunate enough to have known my dad for a full 19 years before you ended his life. He taught me how to paint. He attended every extracurricular activity I had. He took me to dinner on Valentine's Day. He drove almost an hour out of his way every day to drop coffee off in the school office for me and my friends. When he was in too much pain to surf with me, he would sit under an umbrella on the beach all day during the hottest months of the year. He would cut fresh flowers from the garden every morning before my mom woke up and left them on her bedside table. While I ran in the mornings before school, he cooked breakfast so it would be ready on the table when I got home. Every Saturday, we made oatmeal cookies together. Every Sunday, we would go to church and get a coffee after. When you moved into my childhood home, I watched my dad fix the door frame with a crack in it from where the neighbor had to knock the door down to get into the house after my mom died. I watched my dad paint over every memory in every corner of that house, change the furniture, rid the house of every bit of my mom that was left so you could enjoy life without remnants of my dad's late wife and soulmate. I had to come home from school to see you barely clothed, sitting on the countertops my mom used to cook our family dinner on. I had to live in a house stripped of memories I still cling to so I can remember the happy childhood my parents gave me. Not only did you make my home nothing more than a house with 4 empty walls and a roof while I was grieving the loss of my mother, you tried to bring my mother's sweet spirit into your soulless world by spreading lies that she was killed by my own dad. You got medical records pulled, and you were moments away from getting her removed
Judge,
from her own grave.
Apologize for interrupting. The same objection. I don't think attacking the defendant is appropriate victim impact statement.
Sustained.
When you left my dad the first time, I watched his face as he read the letter you left on the bed for him. The house was quiet that day, and while I felt sorry for my dad because I saw the pain in his eyes, I was secretly excited to have my dad back. Those few months that he received nothing but radio silence from you, I was able to finally regain the relationship we once had. Things finally felt normal again. Easter weekend of 2018, my dad insisted that I drove to Florida with him so I could enjoy Easter Sunday with my half-sister. The night before Easter, you and Alicia pulled me aside before dinner to try and convince me that my dad was a monster, that he killed my mother, that he was evil and I was unsafe. The next morning before you brought Emerson over to open Easter baskets, my dad could tell something was off.
Judge, same objection.
I can see 2 ways this could go. It could come back around. I don't know where it's going, though. I don't know what the next statements are. If the next statements contrast that with with evidence designed to demonstrate the victim's uniqueness as an individual human being and the resultant loss to the community's members by the victim's death, then I'll overrule the objection. If not, I'll sustain.
While I feel deeply sorry for everyone who was affected by these last few hurricanes this year, they couldn't help but remind me of the time my dad drove 8 hours through a hurricane to come help you board the house you lived in at the time. My dad was the opposite of what you have attempted to portray him as. Doug Benefield was kind to a fault, he was smart, he was strong, and most importantly, he was generous. His generosity is what got him killed. December 2nd, 2014, 10 years ago yesterday, my dad was out of town when I found my mother dead on the floor at 14 years old. Her funeral was the first and only time I saw my dad cry. Not even a year later, he met you during what I imagined to be a very lonely part of his life. You decided to put on your biggest act of your career and pretend to be everything he needed to fill a void. I watched
Judge,
him.
same objection. Again, apologize for interrupting.
And Judge, I think she can talk about her dad and how he took this in and was kind. Even,
If that's where it's going, but as I've said multiple times, and as I'm pretty sure I confirmed before we started, that the state had gone over with its witnesses,
Yes.
the nature and extent of an
I
appropriate
just have
victim
a
impact.
difference of opinion as to what they're allowed to say, Judge. So it's
I'm
difficult
going
for
by the
me
Florida
to-
law,
For death penalty cases.
and I said that it's appropriate. I think they're good guidelines.
I watched him bend over backwards for your every need. For years, he gave you everything he had, time and time again, trying to show you, Emerson and Alicia, nothing but love. He wanted nothing more to show you what true acts of love are. You took advantage of his willingness to give, and he gave you his life. After my dad passed, there were a lot of sleepless nights contemplating if my life was even worth living. I had no financial help, no parental guidance, and no will to live. The idea of ending my own life was oddly gave me some sort of satisfaction knowing you would have to live the rest of yours with blood of 2 Benefields on your hands. Shortly after those dark days, I realized I would selfishly be doing my parents a disgrace to not live every day to its fullest as they had taught me before they passed. I also realized that not only would you not care if I was dead, it would probably be beneficial to you. I'm the only one who can speak truthfully on behalf of my father and fight for his justice. While the grief of my parents will always live within me, what hurts me the most is not the thought of not having my dad anymore, because I will always have him around in spirit as I continue to implement the lessons he taught me during my adult years. What breaks my heart the most is thinking about how he found you at such a vulnerable part of his life, gave you everything you asked for. After you shot him while he was unarmed, he laid there bleeding out, unable to speak or to breathe, completely helpless and dying alone.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
State, did you have any other victim impact statements?
No, Judge, that's it. Thank
All
you.
right. Any other evidence that you were going to submit? Any letters, documents, anything?
No.
Okay. Rebuttal evidence or statements?